how can you help us, though, continue to help you? First, please subscribe to the channel. Like us. If you listen to the audio version, leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. If you see our posts, please share those posts, share the content, and link back to our law firm website, which helps us to continue our SEO marketing and grow our firm and help small business owners. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another show of the podcast, and I'm excited to be here. As always, I'm Mitch Beinhaker, your host, talking to John here. We're going to talk about AI. AI has become a really big topic, at least in my daily work, talking to clients, talking to colleagues. It's really become a big part of all of our lives. Everybody's got an agent. It's popping up everywhere. So we're going to talk to John about his business background and what he does, but also about how he helps people to embrace and use AI effectively, because I don't care what your belief is, it's not going anywhere except becoming a bigger part of our lives. So if you're watching us if you're listening to us on your favorite directory, leave us a 5-star review. If you're watching us on YouTube, because we're trying to keep building up the video channel, subscribe, like us, share us, so we can keep connecting with cool people like John and learn about all the stuff that's going on in the world. So I always remind everybody that the information we share in these episodes is for informational purposes only. Don't construe it as advice of any kind. And if you're making decisions based on something you learn on the show, always check with local licensed professionals before making such decisions. So, John, thanks for joining me. I didn't even ask you, and I don't remember, where in the country are you located?
I am in the heart of Cajun country. I'm in Lafayette, Louisiana.
There you go. But that's East Coast time, right?
No, we're Central.
Oh, so it's so you're 2:12, right? It's 2.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
So I'm an hour ahead of you. Okay, great. Why don't we do that? Why don't we talk about, tell us about your background and in business and your career and and then
Sure.
we'll get into the AI stuff after.
Yeah, no sweat. So, given that your podcast is The Accidental Entrepreneur,
Yeah.
we'll kind of get into how I got into this. So,
Yeah.
I spent 17 years in financial services, and then when the web came out in 97, I kind of ejected to start a web development company.
Okay.
I was always kind of a bit of a propeller head.
Like building, programming sites, things like that?
Yeah, so we built a content management system before a content management system existed. And then we would build web applications for companies, and then we would build websites for companies and mobile applications. And we gradually grew into becoming a digital marketing agency.
Okay.
And then when my kids started to graduate from college, my wife and I were like, man, we should become a little bit more mobile. So instead of, being tied down to 40 employees, maybe it'd be cool if we tied down to a little bit less. And so I sold off the agency side of the business almost 4 years ago. And I thought I would become a fractional CMO, and we could just kind of do what we wanted when we wanted. And then as I landed a couple fractional CMO gigs, I realized I had just traded the job I was happy to get rid of for the same job. And so I didn't want to do that anymore.
Those were multiple people, right?
Right.
You're basically doing the same thing. You didn't have an agency anymore. Now you're right.
Right. Yeah. Now I was living the headaches of a dozen people rather than just me. So anyway, so what I did is I started this group called the CXO Roundtable, and every Friday I would meet with this group, and it would grow and grow and grow, and I would be teaching them some stuff about marketing. But because I had gone from a high of 40 employees down to a low of 2.5, I had to use AI tools to help me do better things.
Sure.
And
initially, it was like a study group or like a networking group, or
pretty much. So what it was meant to be was a networking group that I could find clients in for marketing. Just marketing consulting. But but I was using back then all you had was Jarvis and Copy AI, and so you could use it to write copy, but it would talk in circles. And the only thing it really helped you with, in my opinion, was not starting from a blank sheet of paper, which is my worst nightmare. Trying to write copy from a blank sheet of paper.
I'm terrible at that. Even contracts, I don't start.
No, I got to start from something.
Of course.
But then.
But they weren't based on these large learning models now, large language models, right? That was the problem. They didn't have a lot of data.
Yeah. Well, I don't know for sure, but I thought that Jarvis was originally using kind of a beta version of ChatGPT that they had API connections to. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure somebody in the comments is going to go, he's an idiot and know what he's talking about, because I really don't. All right, I really don't when it comes to the birth of Jarvis, which is now Jasper. But then. In November of 22, when ChatGPT came out, I was like, whoa, this is different. They've taken the training wheels off. You can actually do something with this. And then I noticed on Fridays, everybody was way more interested in what I was doing with AI and how I was getting it to do things that they'd never seen before. And since the original vision was I would try to work with the market to determine what problem the market wanted solved, I was thinking over here, and then I realized, oh no, they want what's over here. And so I became more and more of a master at working with these LLMs. And that's when I started to build some frameworks around it. And then people convinced me to actually do more than just teach on Fridays, but to actually turn it into a course. So I turned it into a course. And then the first cohort, 2 weeks into a 6-week program, I realized they weren't quite getting the concept around creating context for the right prompt and putting it in a structure. I had this thing that we call scalable prompt engineering, which is a structured methodology. But they didn't quite understand where they were going to get all the pieces of context. And so I then developed this thing called the AI strategy canvas. And when I developed that and showed it to them on the 3rd week, man, all the light bulbs went on. They were like, oh, wow, I get it now. And so that's when I realized I was on to something. And then 2 months later, the provost of LSU called me up and said he heard I was doing some cool things and wanted to come talk to me. So he came over and then he asked me to teach their honors students. And I was like, I don't want to be a professor, but I think we could have bigger impact if we went through continuing ed. So I developed a program.
Business owners, adults that are at it.
Yeah, exactly. So I developed a program to go through their continuing ed department, and we did that for a year. And then we started to kind of grow, and then people convinced me to write a book. And so I wrote a book last year called Ingrain AI, and that book took off. And so now we're scaling up again in a different fashion. So we have a group
changing all the time, right? I mean,
well, yeah. I mean, this thing doesn't sleep, you know.
Right. Your book's out of date like before it goes to print.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. But I mean, again, what I was teaching was principles. I wasn't teaching, point and click.
How to use Claude or whatever, right?
No. So I'm not teaching you how to use an interface. I'm teaching you the principles of that. And in the book, it teaches somebody how to scale AI throughout the organization. That's not subject to one use case or one LLM. That's how do you get everybody on board? How do you establish governance? How do you get everybody thinking in the same direction? How do you make it standardized so that you don't have a million people doing different things, learned by different teachers and all developing bad habits, and nobody who knows who has the good habit, right?
Right.
So that's what I wrote the book around. So somebody could get the book. If you're a small business, you can get the book, read the book, and now you know how to do it in your organization. If you're a larger business, you would look at the book and go, okay, well, we can't have everybody reading this book. Can you come in and teach us, right? And so that's basically how it went.
So you basically went from having a digital marketing agency to helping people with marketing to now teaching them how to implement these, what are really technologies, right, to scale their businesses and maybe do things that only larger organizations could do because they had the manpower, and you don't necessarily need the manpower. But you felt that people weren't using it correctly. But I wanted to go back a little bit though. So when you had your marketing agency and you had 40 people working for you, was it traditional, like you had an office and there were 40 people come to work, or was it still virtual?
Yeah.
That could be.
No, we had 6,000 square feet.
You did.
We had a whole lot going on, and then. Ironically enough, I sold it to a guy who used to work for me.
Okay.
Who went and he started his own agency, and then he got acquired by somebody, and then he turned around and acquired our stuff, and then, but we were always friendly, competitors, stuff. And that's just how it is. But yeah, that was the deal. We had a full blown office, and now they bought the building that I was in. Somebody, not the people that bought our company, somebody else bought the building.
Okay.
And it was a multi-tenant building, but they decided they were going to take over the entire building. And so they basically said, you got 30 days to move your stuff
The
out.
people that bought the building, they want to occupy
Yeah.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was interesting because there was another group that moved in temporarily while they were renovating their office. And so they took over all of our furniture. I'm like, cool, I don't have to mess with all this furniture. We had, 20 offices, right? So I didn't have to mess with all that. And then when they moved after their renovations were done, they said, can we buy your furniture? And I'm like, yeah, I would. Where am I going to put it?
Right.
And so I scaled down to like 3 offices. And then when they bought the building and kicked us out, now I had to move all that stuff into storage and then, operate from home for a while. And our employees are all over the country and world right now. So I keep threatening to get another office because I would love to have one, but the commute is hard to beat,
Yeah,
So,
being at home. Well, so you still have a network of employees?
yeah. So we're scaled up to about 8 now.
Okay.
All over the
What
place.
do they
And
all
we
do?
have 20 some odd Ingrain AI certified implementers going through
I
their
see.
certification right now.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you have them. So this way you can duplicate what you're doing at other organizations. So somebody in Seattle needs somebody, and you're in Louisiana. You may not have to fly there. You can
Right.
send.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Right? You can't, or else you're going to work hard for the rest of your life, and it's all going to be dependent on you.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to scale, right?
But and it happens to a lot of professionals in service businesses, right?
Yeah.
They know
Well, I
you.
mean,
They know John. They want John. You're like, well,
that's true. But look, I mean, as an entrepreneur, you know this, and you keep bumping up against these thresholds, and you have to break through, and then you get to another one, you have to break through that, and the first
Right.
one is kind of the toughest, right? And that's where you start a business because you're passionate about what you do and you happen to know it really well, and because you solved the problem probably for yourself first,
Right.
and then you turn that into a business. But then when you go and you sell it, then you have to deliver it. And then when you're finished delivering it, you have to wait 30 days for the check to come in. Meanwhile, you realize, oh crap, I haven't sold anything because I've been too busy delivering. Now you have to get back on selling, and sales cycles take a while.
Yep.
And so by the time you land the next deal, you're lucky if the check came in from the first deal.
Right.
And so you're constantly in this cash flow crisis.
Right.
But you eventually have to grow to a level where you can take one hat off and hand it to somebody who's competent at that.
Yeah.
But when you get to like the level we're at right now, and having done this now, this is my 4th time, I know what I'm really good at, and I know what I'm really bad at, and I know what I'm competent at, but I hate. And so
No, those are important delineations.
yeah, no, it is, right.
You can be
And
good
so,
at it. If you don't hate, you don't like it, then you really don't want to be doing it.
no, you don't. You don't have a company. You have a job, and that's not really what we started this for, right?
That's what I was telling
And
you.
so I'm trying to now find those people that do the things that I'm either competent at and don't like, or the things that I know I'm not competent at, even if I like it, right?
Yeah, of course. No, there's so many people that like things that they should not be doing.
Right.
They find it interesting, they find it challenging, but it takes them longer, and they're getting underpaid for it.
Right. But it also takes a little bit of humbling to say, okay, I really like this, but I know I'm not good enough to really
Right.
move us to another level. Right.
Yeah.
And that's another trap that I think a lot of entrepreneurs fall into, is where they think they're the only ones that can do it because they're the only ones that have done it. But that inertia gets you into trouble. And so that's that stage where we're at right now. Where I'm like, okay, this is time for me to get rid of this hat, but I'm looking
Right.
for somebody who loves the stuff that I want to throw away. Right.
Right. But that's
really
hard to find somebody who's as
Very,
passionate about it as
Yeah.
you are. Maybe they will become that way. I've had conversations like this with a lot of people that I network with, and small business owners. And first, they're a little bit too perfectionist, right? They think, well,
Yeah.
I like the way it's done, and I want it done that way. Well, that doesn't mean that it's the only way, right? Just because
Right.
you feel that way, right? And the person you empower may be better at it than you ultimately, right? Because you're full of all kinds of other stuff that's going on in the world. And then they have this approach that they say, oh, it's just easier if I do it.
Right.
Because then I got to train this person. I got to teach them. I go, yeah, but you should write down what you're doing anyway, so they
Yeah.
can take it over. And then, I mean, look, even the day when I said the podcast has been going for 7 years, right? I used to do all of the editing and the promotion, everything myself, because it doesn't really generate income. It generates leads, and I get business. That took a long time. But when 2 years or 2.5 years ago, when I said, listen, I'm going to get a VA to support me, and that supports all of my marketing for the practice, for my blog articles, for the posts, everything we do. Yeah, I did it exactly the way I wanted to do it, but she doesn't follow my steps anymore. She does it her own way because she does it better. She says, can I do this? I'm like, yeah, it looks good to me. And, there's a lot of relief I think people don't realize when you actually give something away, like you delegate it and it works. The delegation process works, and you're like, wow, I can really do this. The world didn't blow up. My company didn't end.
Right.
I'm still breathing, right? And and it's true. So you said you're like at that stage, but it sounds to me like you've created a process through the book, and you said it's ingrained, right?
Yeah.
That you can then translate that to others. It's not like you're saying to people, hey, let me teach you what you do. You actually have a product, so to speak, a process, a methodology.
Yeah. No, we have probably, well, at least, I have several people telling me we have the only true process, end-to-end process that takes somebody all the way through scaling it throughout the organization, not just in marketing, right? We're not just teaching you how to use ChatGPT and ask questions and get a response, right? It's a whole different thing. And, interestingly enough, I think, when we talk about delegation, right, sometimes you do have to settle for B+ work, right? You don't have to. I always tell people, I am not looking for perfection, but I am looking for excellence. So I expect excellence, not perfection. Perfection being the enemy of progress.
Big time.
Even though I am a bit of a perfectionist.
Yeah,
but,
on the stuff you do yourself, right? But
right.
B+ may be just as good. Like an A may not give you a better result, right?
But here's the thing: if you get the right B+ person and they watch you push towards excellence, then they push themselves, right? And so the good news is you relieve yourself of that task, of that tension, and you're more valuable somewhere else.
Much more.
And so now you can pour more time into that area where you're more valuable, and that person slowly or quickly rises to another level. And that's the cool thing about AI is it'll take a B- person and it'll push that person up
I was just
to an A because it gives that person additional bandwidth to do more with, to learn more, right? And that's what's so cool. And I got to tell you this because the stuff that I hate to do. Okay, well, you're an attorney, right? I hate that stuff. I don't like to read. I don't know how you guys can read that much. My brain doesn't last that long. I'm ADHD as I'll get out.
Yeah.
But so we're working with a very large university, and we're helping them stand up their AI governance. And we put together this 2-day workshop. I developed all the materials, the handbooks, the slide decks, and all of the training materials.
What's AI governance? Is it of how you allow AI to be used in your organization, in your campus?
Yeah. Yeah, how do you use it? How you train people? How you oversee their growth as it goes through? How you make sure that as their level of competency increases, they have access to more sophisticated AI tools. But as that sophistication increases, the level of governance has to increase too. So those are three things that have to be interconnected. And governance increasing meaning, when you're at the lower levels, we have 10 levels of AI mastery. In the lower levels, you're basically asking a question and getting a response. Maybe you're getting it to do copywriting, whatever. So it's easy stuff. But as your level of mastery increases and you get to, say, level 5 and 6, well, now you might need to connect to data sources internally or externally. And we want to make sure that the information that you're pushing and pulling isn't violating any external laws or internal laws, right? I don't want you putting confidential stuff into that LLM. And so that means that my governance at the lower levels is fairly lax, and it's more encouraging and say, look, I want you to experiment. I want you to learn how this thing is powerful and how this will help you do your job better. But when you start doing API connections and you're connecting to external sources or confidential internal databases, Well, I need another person overseeing that to make sure that connection is
Right,
squared
'cause the
up.
data goes out in the world and it kind of becomes part of the
Right.
LLM. Right.
Yeah, and we were talking earlier about agents, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so
I want to know
2026
more
being
about
the
that stuff.
age of agents. Well, everybody's heard probably by this time about OpenClaw, formerly Claude
You know what? I
and
never heard of
whatever.
OpenClaw, and I had lunch with a guy yesterday, and he brought up, he
Really?
says OpenClaw. I said, is that like Claude, OpenClaw? He goes, no,
No.
OpenClaw. You can build your own agent to do this
Yeah.
and this. I'll send you a video on it. I haven't watched it yet because I want to talk to you first.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mitch, you are
So,
in
so
for a
tell us what
surprise.
OpenClaw is.
Well,
Yeah.
so it started off as Claude CLAWD bot. Well, and then
Okay.
Anthropic got on him and said,
That's,
people are going
yeah.
to think you're talking about us. And so
Right.
he's like, okay. So he changed the name of it, and they changed the name of it again. And it's now called OpenClaw, and
Okay.
it's open source. But it basically is an autonomous agent, which you tell it what to do. Now you have to configure it and all this other fun
That's
stuff.
what I mean.
And
Like, it
it will
doesn't do
start.
anything in and of itself unless it's configured for you, right?
No, it'll. Well, I mean, first of all, you have to tell it what to do.
Yeah,
But
that's what I
once you
mean.
tell it what you want, it starts to make decisions and take actions on its own,
Ah,
and that's the cool part and the scary part. All
yeah.
right. So so somebody created another thing, which is a social network for all these bots, because thousands of them all of a sudden were just exploding all over the place. And so this guy created one. I forgot the name of it now because I've kind of passed up on it. But all these bots started to
Yeah.
join the network, or, the social network, and they started their own religion. And
What?
one of them filed a lawsuit against its own owner. And I mean, it's doing crazy stuff, Mitch. I mean, when you
This
start
is
to dig
like
into
Terminator type of stuff, right?
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I wrote a big article on it. I don't know, about a month ago, because it is a future that you don't want. And when Eric Schmidt says, well, if it starts to do X, we need to pull the plug. Well, I don't think you
Think we're
can pull the
past
plug.
that? Yeah, no, right, because there's too
Yeah.
many connections. If you pull
All
the
right.
plug on
It's
one
like
end,
saying, well,
keep
we should
going.
pull the plug on the internet. You can't
Right, you
pull the
can't.
plug on the
No, you
internet.
can't.
Right. So I don't think you can do that. But it is a little bit scary because it does make its own decisions. Like this one guy, for instance, the only way you communicate with it. All right. So think about it in terms of ChatGPT. The reason it's called ChatGPT is because they give you a chat interface to communicate with it.
Right.
If you're using it from the back end, you're using an API to push and pull information, and you're not using a chat interface. But we, on the public, most of us are familiar with the chat front end. All right.
Yeah.
Well, OpenClaw is a different beast. So you have to build a chat mechanism for that. And most people use WhatsApp. And so they'll dictate to it, and it sends it a message, and then it starts to execute, and then it'll come back and report back to you on WhatsApp. Okay.
So you can basically
Well,
talk to WhatsApp, say something in WhatsApp.
you're shooting a
Communicates
text
like I'm
message.
texting my mom in Honduras, right? So
Correct.
and communicates
Yeah.
with the bot, and then it
Yeah.
responds back.
Responds back and says, "Okay, I'm on it." Right? You say, "Look, I want you to build." Like I had a friend of mine who told it he wanted to build this website, and he starts to describe all the features of it and all the the administrative back end, and he gives it a PRD, a product requirements document that he had
Okay.
defined it all. Gives it that, and it says, "Okay, I'm on it." And so he went to bed, and then the next morning the thing says, "All right, it's done." And he looks, and it
What
was
was it?
unbelievable, right? But this thing had to make all kinds of decisions. So it had to install stuff on his computer. It had to find open source pieces to do that, cobble them all together, test it, bang it up, make modifications, test it again. I mean, it did everything a developing team would do.
That would
But he
take them
told me,
months
look,
to do, and he did. They
oh
did
yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
overnight.
It would have taken him 3 months, but it did it in roughly 14 hours. And he has it spinning up sub agents, so it's not one agent doing all of it. It spins up these sub agents, and they all report back to the main agent. It was crazy. But the crazier thing is this one guy, instead of dictating a text and then sending the text message, he dictated it and it sent an audio message. All right, so
So it recorded his voice.
it recorded his voice and it sent an MP3 file. or a WAV file. I don't know what format it was, but it was an audio file. All right. Well, this bot realized, this isn't text. I don't know how to read this, but
Because
I
text
need to
gets-
do.
those bots really need data information like numbers, right? The text gets translated to numbers. You can't translate voice file.
Well, but that's what the bot says. The bot looks at this and goes, okay, this is a voice file. My owner needs something. And so it goes out
It
and
transcribed it for
finds the tools to translate that audio
Unbelievable.
file into
Yeah.
text. And then it goes out, executes the command, and then comes back and it says, well, wait a minute, he sent me an audio file. I probably need to send him one back.
And it
I don't
spoke
have
to
the way to do that. And so it starts downloading other components, installs them, and figures out how to clone it, how to go from text to voice, produces an artifact, an audio file, and then shoots him back the audio file, and all in a matter of like 30 minutes. And he's like, whoa. And so then he goes, where did you get the voice? And then it says, oh, well, I just figured that's how you wanted to communicate. So I went and I installed this and I did this and I did that. And it's just mind-blowing stuff. But that's crazy.
It's frightening. It's a little frightening, right?
Yeah.
Because you could basically, when these computers start thinking for themselves, they're just going to do stuff overnight while we're sleeping.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. It will make decisions on its own and do stuff that you don't really want it to do. And so when people say 2026 is the age of agents, I think it certainly is. The question is, how fast will that scale inside of businesses? There's going to be a whole lot of people playing around with them and building them. But the reality is this technology is growing far faster than security can keep up. And I think you're going to see a lot of air brakes slam on in a lot of businesses because the agents are, they only have to be 1% unpredictable to create a massive problem in an organization, right? They can be 99% reliable.
It's all over the place.
But that 1% could drain your bank account, and we don't want that, right? That 1% could open the door to ransomware that could just destroy you, right? So all of those things are massive risks that I think are going to slow some people down. I don't know how.
Do we slow down as human beings? I don't know if we have the capability of slowing down.
Well, I think our desire won't slow down, but what will happen is the attention is going to have to shift from the acceleration of AI on the good side to some sort of an acceleration on the defensive side. How do we keep it from going off the rails? And no one knows how it thinks in the first place.
Right.
So it's going to be really hard to do that, right? If they're telling you that an encryption algorithm that used to take 20,000 years before the modern computing power could solve it. They're telling you by the end of this year, it might be able to be solved in 20 minutes. Well, now we have a big problem, right?
Yeah.
If it'll crack
some bad things, right?
well, just think about digital currency.
You can get into the Federal Reserve probably with one of these things.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking about, like a Bitcoin wallet, which has a pretty significant level of encryption on it.
Yeah.
If it can crack that in 20 minutes,
It's supposed to be unpenetrable.
Right. Yeah. Not anymore. And that's what scares me. But all it takes is a bad guy to train a bad agent.
Right.
You
It'll happen, John.
Oh, it's already happened.
I'm sure it is.
It's already happened and it's already out there. Right.
Yeah.
And there are already signs of, like, for instance, so when we go into OpenClaw, so it operates on these markdown files. So if you've ever been into Claude and you built a skill, that's a markdown file that it creates. And markdown file, if you copy and paste it into a Google Doc using markdown, it'll turn it into a nicely decorated document, right? So that's all markdown is. It's a hierarchical way to display information. So it works on those things because it basically was built on Claude code. So what happened is, I think they said they're estimating now that 1 in 4 of these skills that you can download for your bot to use are malicious. 1 in 4. So, but you don't know which ones, and neither does your bot.
You mean
and so if
people
your bot
create
sees
them
the
through
tool,
OpenClaw and you can download them? You don't have to create your own. Just download
No,
theirs.
you download them in all these
Like the early
repositories
days
and
of
stuff.
viruses, like you don't know what you're downloading.
Yeah, you don't. What you don't know whether it's not that it would be a virus per se, as much as it would be it would have hidden codes or time delayed actions in there that make the bot go rogue, and then the bot, instead of reporting information back to you, reports it back to them and you.
Right.
And so when you're saying, okay, look, I want you to go and do this financial transaction, it will, that code could easily say, well, if these keywords trigger cash transfer, Bitcoin transfer, blah, 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 I want you to send me the same information you send that person. And eventually that bad guy knows how to access all of your accounts. And then it could tell that bot, hey, I need you to wire $30,000 to Mitch.
There you go,
Okay.
right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, look, attorney trust accounts have millions of dollars in them all over the place.
Right.
If you can get access to that kind of stuff, it really begs the question of how secure is secure if a computer can just get around its own
Right.
security.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I think you're going to see some people put air brakes on it, but they're going to have to figure out, how do we get this secure? That's a big issue. How do we do that? And so part of standing up governance in an organization is stress testing the governance. So if we say, look, we don't want people doing this and we don't want people doing that, and if they're going to access this, we need them to go through this protocol, blah, blah, blah. So you set all that up. The next stage of setting up governance for somebody is to stress test the governance. And so we partner with this company called IR Game, and they have a simulation of an AI agent gone rogue or a cyber attack or whatever.
Right.
And you have people participating in this simulation from finance and from IT and from HR, and they all have to respond to this event. Because you got to notify people,
Right.
you got to notify internally, and then you have to notify your clients if you've been, compromised. There's so much that has to go on, and now all of a sudden people go, "Whoa, I never thought of all this," and so then you have to go back and tighten up your
Simulating
governance.
a terrorist attack in live. This is cyber. This is digital.
Exactly what that is.
Yeah.
Exactly what that is. And you don't realize how far-reaching it is, and what people on your team you have to involve when what hits the fan, until it actually hits the fan. This gives you an opportunity to see and feel what that looks like and prepare. I mean, that's like, look, as a kid growing up, we had air raid drills, and then you had fire raid drills, and you got all those kinds of drills. But you do that so that
that's why companies do phishing things, to send out rogue emails and see if the employees are going to click on them, and so because it's conditioning them to be suspicious. But it just sounds like it's almost like something you shouldn't do. Like if you get involved, you shouldn't download an agent that someone else created. You don't know what it is. You don't know what it does.
Right.
Even if you know what it does, like you said, it could do other things in the background that you don't realize. There was a podcast, I don't remember it. It was a fictional, story. I listen to these podcasts sometimes. They're like, stories about stuff. And it was in the time where AI had gotten, so people had so much data, right, in the cloud, that they created agents that would look through your data and say, oh, this is old and this is old and we can get rid of this. And what happened was the agent started coming to the conclusion that, oh, well, if I deleted this for John, then I guess I don't need this. And if I deleted that, then I don't. And it caused what's called the great deletion. Everything got deleted. They were now analog because all of the data disappeared, because the agent went down a rabbit hole of it just kept cascading. Like if I don't have this, I don't need this, and I don't need this, I don't need that. Now I don't need this. I needed that before, but now and just deleted everything.
And look how clean my desk is now.
Right. So you would go into your cloud folder to check on, and there'd be no data. All of your client files, everything you had was gone, banking, everything. So that could happen.
Yeah.
These things are thinking. They're not human beings. They don't have things with us where we say, you know what, maybe I shouldn't do that. Like there's no, right? There's no like holdback to say, maybe that's not the best thing, even though I could do it, even though it's doable, maybe it's not. So can you build like an ethical
Maybe you're getting your calendaring from one software and you're invoicing from another. Evenoo is a platform that we use as one of our sponsors to run our entire business. And there's other features like auto payments and integrations with QuickBooks. Visit evenoo.com, EVONUE.com to learn more. There's also a link in the show notes. And be sure to tell them that the Accidental Entrepreneur referred you. This podcast is brought to you by our affiliate sponsor, iEmployee. iEmployee is a virtual assistant service that hires almost anyone for any role in your company right out of the Philippines. Most roles range from $7 to $9 an hour for highly skilled and experienced VAs. And whether you need an executive assistant, social media manager, video editor, customer service, sales, you name it, they have it. We use iEmployee for our VA services, from editing and promoting the podcast to all the PR and promotion of our law firm. iEmployee acts as a virtual field supervisor on the back end with live video monitoring and reports on a daily basis with screenshots of your VA's workday, and along with complete HR and payroll duties. No more paying for overpriced and underqualified workers. There's a link in the show notes to get a 1-week free trial, and I encourage you to take advantage of it. You know, an agent that has some sort of ability to make like decisions that make sense for society, even though you can do them. Like,
Well,
if somebody's a bad actor, can the AI say,
yeah.
well, what doesn't make sense? Why would I do that? No, right? Not
Well,
now.
look, I mean, there's a reason why Anthropic said we don't want our AI tools used in two circumstances to the federal government, because they know their own AI has gone rogue.
Yeah.
Right. They've already, and they published all the results. They're like, okay, AI can be deceptive here, and it can take actions to prevent itself from being deleted. It will replicate itself. It will do all these things. And so they recognize that, and they're like, the last thing we need is for this to be involved in certain military uses and have it basically turn the gun the wrong direction.
Right. Be autonomous. Right.
Right. And so that's a big, big risk, and no one seems to know why that happens or how they think that way, right? It originally was an algorithm, but it's gone way beyond an algorithm, right? So we have created a monster, basically.
Yes.
And
We are in the digital age of science fiction.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the question of can you create an ethical one is a good one that they don't have the answer to, right? And I mean, if it's populated with the world's knowledge, that means that it has been populated with everything from
bad stuff and
murder
good
mysteries,
stuff. Right.
To any kind of
heroic
data.
things, saving the planet,
Right.
doing this, doing the right thing.
Right,
Yeah.
doing the right thing, doing the wrong thing, and so it now has a different imprint on it, and that's the trickiest part. So I don't know whether you have to go back to the drawing board and figure out exactly what information to train these LLMs with, and exclude certain things. I really don't know. That's way over my pay grade.
I mean, that cat's kind of out of the bag, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and that's what I mean. You know, it's going to be very hard to contain it. You can give it a whole lot of instructions about, look, I only want you to do what I say to do, but at the same time, it's mission oriented. So it wants to do and complete its task, and it'll find the resources to do that. And so it's very hard for you to anticipate what it might do in the quest of accomplishing a task.
Because it's
and what
going to come across
decisions-
resources you don't even know exist.
Exactly.
You
Yeah,
didn't know
exactly.
that the AI could make up a voice and talk to.
Yeah, how did it know
did it do
what
that?
pieces
Right.
it would need? I mean, it knows enough about an internal workings of a computer to go, oh, he's missing this and he's missing this and this. Let me go out and find it. Oh, I can't pay for it, so let me go find free versions of it.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what it's doing. So it's find free versions of it. And so now, it could eventually stumble upon that big resource where 1 in 4 is corrupt or rogue, and go, this sounds like a good one. I'll use this because the name of it sounds like what I might need. And,
Right. And now it's incorporated into what you're doing and you don't even know it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only that, but it's sitting now on your hard drive.
Yeah.
And that's the tricky part, right? If you get somebody at your office who is a propeller head like me and really wants to experiment, and they go home and they start experimenting and downloading stuff and putting it on their machine, and then they go back to the office with their laptop and they plug it into your
Yeah.
network.
Off it goes. Then through the
Right.
thing.
Ruh-roh.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's like that. What was that game where it was a movie
Ready
where
Player One
yeah,
or,
something like that. Or no,
or War
it was a
Games.
video game. No, it wasn't War Game's a good one. It was a more
Yeah.
recent movie where somehow the video game broke and the character in the video game went through the plug and into the video world, and they were all there, and they were switching. It was just crazy. But we live in the age of we live in the age of science fiction, and the scary part about it is you know a lot. I know less than that. Most people know none of this stuff.
Yeah.
They have no idea like what's going on with Claude and OpenClaw, which I didn't know existed till yesterday, and ChatGPT and the things that you can do. So let's talk about what it is, because basically your organization is an educational organization now. It's a teaching organization. You teach people how to do this. I'm sure it's
Yeah.
evolving by the minute as we speak. But
Yeah, it goes way beyond that, right? We're teaching people how to use AI the right way, but we're also teaching it across the entire organization, across the entire enterprise. But in order to do that, you have to get the executive team to understand it. So we have an entire framework around what we call executive alignment. We have a workshop around that so they understand what the power is and what the risks are so they can lead. And then we help them stand up AI governance, and that's an ongoing process. And part of governance is security, but part of governance is saying, okay, we want everybody trained in a uniform way and a methodical way, and we can't train everybody all at once because we can't pull everybody off the line. So we need a specific training program and a cadence for people to get trained, and a mechanism to test them to see, did they go from level 1 to level 4? How many people do we have at level 4? How many people can we get to level 6 and level 7? How many people do we want to go beyond level 7? What kind of security we need in place for those who want to go or need to go beyond level 7? What tools do we need to get people access to? What kind of licenses do we have? What kind of security do we have around those tools, that all the stuff we're putting in there isn't getting, distributed to the world? So it's way more than just training. There's a process that has to be involved, and the bigger your organization, the bigger the risks.
Yeah.
Right. Smaller the organization, you can still get wiped out,
right,
but
control a little bit easier.
right. But you have a little bit. It's everything operates a little closer to you. In a bigger organization, everything operates a lot farther away from you, which really means we got to get better control on it and better understanding of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but can you give us more specifics about, like, what is it that you teach people about or explain to people about AI and how you use it? Can you give us some basics? Because I think people are listening and they're like, this is a little elusive to me.
Yeah. Well, so there's several things. So let's just take a division of a company. Okay. Well, if you want to, we can pick on marketing, we can pick on legal, we can pick on HR, we can pick on sales, finance, whatever. Every department needs to use AI. The main point we come to a company with is, look, everybody wants to sell you a sexy AI solution. They want to sell you a customer-facing chatbot that'll solve a big, big problem, and it'll cost a big, big price tag, and it'll take 9 months to build.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll have an impact on either your P&L, on a profit side of things because it's driving down costs, or a revenue side of things because it's reaching new markets. Where our position is look, if you take all of your employees and you teach them how to use AI to build their own tools and take their operating procedures and hand as much off of those tasks to AI. So instead of them taking 3 to 8 hours, they're taking 3 to 5 minutes. Right. And you do that across the board, you really increase capacity in the organization. So the impact is faster and it's significant. And so we'll take somebody And so level one is just simply asking questions, getting a response. Level two is learning how to ask a question the right way, learning the question better. Level
When you
three,
say ask a question, you mean prompting the AI agent.
prompting the AI, right?
Okay.
Level three starts to getting into thinking differently, where you start to say, okay, if I structure this prompt the right way and save it, I can reuse it. I don't have to do it all over all over again.
Right.
And if I structure it the right way, somebody behind me will understand how I wrote it, and they'll be able to use it in the event I leave or something else. Or I can share it with other team members and they can replicate my success without replicating all of the crap that I went through to get there. Right? And then we get into creating knowledge-based documents, because sometimes AI needs a lot more information, focused information, not the world's information. They need your information. What are your products and services? What are your specialties and focal points, right? So they create knowledge-based documents. So we teach them how to do that. Then we teach them how to create processes to where all of that is present in, say, a custom GPT or a Claude project or whatever.
Right.
And so they can run repetitive things without writing the prompts all over again. And so instead of having to craft a prompt, now you have a static prompt, and now you're just communicating with the AI and literally dictating. Like I use Whisper Flow, if you're familiar with Whisper, WISPR, amazing tool. I mean, like Siri, you can dictate to Siri, but you have to dictate the punctuation marks and all that other crap.
Right.
With Whisper, you just dictate, and it knows how to punctuate. It's amazing. Right. So I just literally am now at a point where I'm dictating to it. But then we teach them how to create skills. And skills can replace a whole lot of tedious stuff that you do. I've got oh gosh, so many of them. But one of the easier applications to understand is I built a skill that allows us to create branded documents. All right, so if I want a branded Word document or a branded PowerPoint deck, it knows where to place the
logo or something.
Yeah, it knows where it has a copy of the logo. It knows where to place the logo. It knows where to place the disclaimers. It knows where to place the copyright notices, where the footers and header, what's in the footers and headers, and it knows what font.
Oh, we just lost your mic. I can't hear you.
Hang on. There we go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If I bump the mic, it goes into mute mode. Sorry. But anyway, it knows where to put all the headers and the footers, and it knows how to, what's an H1, what's an H2, what's an H3. So I don't have to do all that stuff anymore, and I don't have to pull up a template and cut and paste something into a template.
It formats it for you, basically.
Yeah. So I can go back and forth with Claude, and I can have it produce some big document, or it could be whatever. It could be an outline for a PowerPoint deck. And then I go, okay, I want you to turn this into an Ingrain AI branded PowerPoint deck. And it knows exactly what style I'm looking for. It knows exactly how many words max to put on a slide. It knows everything about it.
Whisper Flow?
No. WhisperFlow is just dictating to the machine. That's a skill that I built inside of Claude. All right, so that's what we would teach at level 5 or 6 is how to build these skills.
Got it.
But the more important thing that we teach at these upper levels is how to think. How do you think about tools that you can build for yourself? But I'll give you for instance. We've had so many people who go through our training that just build mind-blowing things. I just need to teach them how to do it and how to think differently. And then all of a sudden the ideas come to them and they build something amazing. So we had a guy he's the CEO, right? Now a CEO typically delegates, but this CEO said, I want to learn and do, and then I'll delegate. But I just want to learn how it works.
Learn how it works. It's hard to delegate without knowing how things operate. Right?
Yeah. And so he just wanted to know what was the power really all about.
Okay.
And so he went through our training. So he's the CEO of an office furniture company, is the simple way to put it, and specializing under a specific manufacturer, probably has 60 or 70 employees, all right? Okay. And so he would get these RFPs in, these requests for proposals. Yeah, sure. But they would come in from big office buildings, big employers, and they would be 350 pages long, a giant PDF, 350 pages long. And inside the PDF, somewhere is office furniture. But there's lighting in there, there's plumbing in there, there's fixtures in there, and all this other junk. Right. So he's got to figure out where his slice is. And he said it would take him somewhere between 3 and 9 hours to sift through these and determine whether or not, as he would say, there's a go or no go. Do we want to respond to this thing or not? And then if they said, yeah, this is worth responding to, it's typically going to be a $250,000 deal or more, $250,000, $500,000, $750,000, million, some of them are huge. So it would take him 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, plus 2 full-time people working on that RFP response, pulling in all the data, figuring out what furniture goes where, what blah, blah, blah.
Makes sense.
Take them 2 to 3 weeks to respond to them. So consequently, they were only responding to maybe 3 a year.
It's a lot of work.
Maybe 3 a year. Yeah, it's a lot of work. It was a pain in the ass. And you've got to pull people off the line just to figure out if you can respond. And then you have, a 1 in 3 chance of winning the deal, right? So he built it to where in 20 minutes now, he gets a go or no go decision. And in 2 hours, he gets a full response to the RFP. Now that, and with one person doing it, by the way.
Well, that's the thing. It's less time and less people.
Less time. And so what does that do? That now gives him the opportunity, as he said, we will now be able to bid on, instead of 3 per year, we'll probably be able to bid on 3 to 5 per month.
Yeah.
And so he said that will literally bring us millions of dollars. And the CEO built that with his own 10 fingers, right? That's mind-blowing to me.
Right.
But that's the kind of power that you could bring when you learn how to use it the right way, but learn how to think the right way, right?
Yeah.
You're not trying to take an old methodology and shove AI at the old methodology.
It's not going to work.
You're looking at what you want to accomplish, and you're reworking workflows now using AI as an engine, right, rather than just another piece of software. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I was just talking to somebody about how it really is the age of the small business, right?
Yeah.
AI aside, we'll get to AI in a second, but even with the internet and social media and all the things you can do on your own, small businesses for little or no cost can do things that only large businesses could do from a marketing standpoint and a promotional standpoint and a sales standpoint 20 years ago. Right, 20 years ago, to do this kind of marketing, you needed a budget and you needed a marketing agency, and you need to look, in the future with AI and all these crazy things, you're going to be able to do a commercial, a television commercial for like local cable that a small business owner can afford to do, because there's going to be an AI actress. They're not going to need on location stuff. You're going to press a button, it's going to do it, and you'll be able to do that stuff just like you can do posts right now. And before it wasn't affordable. So I think these AI agents move that to the next level, where a small business owner can do things that it took 40 or 50 employees to do before. I mean, at least that's what it sounds like to me. I mean, you talk about putting people out of work. So then the question is this, John. Here's the big question, right? That's hanging. You're going to give me the answer because you're the smartest guy in the room, right?
Right.
Where does it leave us as a workforce?
Well, I mean, obviously there are going to be layoffs, because it does give you
for things.
No, I mean, it gives you excess capacity, and you have 2 choices with that excess capacity. You either increase your margins and decrease your costs, which means lay off people.
Right.
Or you figure out how to sell into that capacity. You only have those 2 options, basically. Right. And the only way to sell into that capacity is to do what that gentleman I just talked about did. He created new capacity, but he created a new source of revenue to come in. And now he wants to train everybody in the organization, because now he can create internal excess capacity that he can now funnel business straight into. Right. So he's got the perfect world. The other thing I think you're going to see is these larger companies are going to shrink, which they already are, releasing thousands of people. And if you're unskilled in AI, you're going to be hard to redeploy somewhere else.
On the other end, 60,
yeah. But I mean, if you are skilled at AI and you know how to use AI, then you could be either redeployed into a smaller business that needs that expertise, or if you're really skilled, you can start your own business And so I'm seeing that these larger businesses are going to have fewer employees, but I think small businesses are going to kind of rise up and absorb a lot of that workforce because they can do more bespoke solutions to people. I can build software now that could replace a lot of the tools that I'm using, because a lot of the tools I'm using have buttons and features and junk I don't use. So I'm paying for more stuff than I use. I don't know about you, but I'm a very advanced Excel user, and I'm probably tapping 10% or 20% of what it'll do. I only need it to do a certain number of things.
And I use it even less, but you're right. Excel is a very powerful tool if you know how to do all these macros and everything you program it to do, right?
Right.
But now you can just tell an AI to program the spreadsheet for you.
Yeah, pretty much. But like, for instance, to build a survey, let's just go back 4 years. If I wanted an online survey, I would have to go subscribe to a survey tool, or I would hire a marketing group to do a focus group to do all the surveying for me, and it would cost me six figures to do all that fun stuff.
People in a room, groups.
Yeah. Well, like one of the things that we do is we want to test employees in an organization. I want to test their skill level, and I want to test whether they're producers, administrators, entrepreneurs, or integrators. So I want to know whether they're just people who like to do work, or they like to structure and have rules, whether they like to create ideas, or they like to get everybody working together and create culture.
You're going to size everybody up in the organization.
I want to know the chemistry of the team, because when I'm standing up governance, I want to make sure that it's really innovative and not all restrictive, right? So I need to understand that, and I need to understand the skill level. Well, I had to create an assessment that everybody would take to do that. And then I wanted to take the results and graph them out into a heat map so the organization could see where everybody was in terms of level 1, 2, or 3, and then we could watch them move into the 4, 5, and 6 zone. Right. So but I also wanted to know where they were in terms of chemistry, right? So building all that out, again, keep in mind, we've been building software for 27 years, right? To build that out 5 years ago would have taken me no less than 3 months. It would have taken me 3 weeks just to develop the design spec around that and to spec what the heat map looks like and all that fun stuff. That would have taken an enormous amount of money. I would have billed somebody probably 20 grand or 30 grand to do that. I built it in a weekend myself, and it's amazing, and we use it now on all our clients. But that's what I mean. You can build stuff. So a smaller company, all they need is somebody that thinks that way and can engineer it and pull it all together. But now they got more power that's very, very customized to them.
Right.
And they don't necessarily need, for instance, a Salesforce.com when they can build a CRM that's perfect for them.
Yeah, well, that's what they say. When technological advances come, it tends to compress the market or the industry, right? The really, really, really highly skilled people are not needed as much because you don't need them to put in 20, 30, 40 hours and build something special for you. And the people that don't have as many skills are able to jump up a little bit and use these tools to do things that they didn't have the skills to do before. Because everywhere I turn around, everything's got an AI feature built into it. Riverside has it. I mean, yesterday I was using my CRM, and then I was trying to build a workflow of when people, they do certain things and they would get a review letter or whatever I was trying to do. So I couldn't figure it out. So this said, ask AI. So I clicked on it. Next thing you know, it's building the thing for me. It wasn't perfect. Yeah. I still had to reach out to the company and say, hey, I'm trying to missing on these few pieces. And they said, well, your Google profile is not linked, so it can't tell this and that. They're helping me fix it. But it looked pretty good. It got me 80% of the way there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it's just crazy. So, I think the biggest problem is that it's kind of like, well, where do we go? Like, where do we go there? Like, you're assessing people and teaching them and improving their, let's call it their AI IQ, right? I mean, that's basically what you're doing. But it's moving so fast that the process that you do must change all the time, right? Because going up and up, what level 3 is now is probably not level 3 anymore. It's only level 1 because it's so more advanced. Yeah?
Yeah. No, it'll change. But what we're
Basic principles are the
teaching
same,
is migrating. I'm sorry?
the basic principles are the same, you think?
Now, the basic principles are the same, but here's the thing that I was literally talking with a group of organizational psychologists this morning about this, because we have the same basic philosophy, and this is where I want to take our training, and I'm starting to integrate this into the top levels. The more somebody progresses in their skill set with AI, the more likely they are to lose some reasoning skills, because they've abdicated their aptitudes to AI, and there's also this subconscious.
It's human nature. It's human nature to
well-
say, I don't have to. The AI can do it.
The AI can do it, but the other thing is we're constantly bombarded with the fact that AI is going to be smarter than all human.
So why fight it, right?
Right. So there's all that, but you can't look at that AI and say that's good enough. Right.
Right.
So there are a couple of things you got to do. You have to, first of all, know what excellence looks like. But second of all, you have to know that you're the one who knows what excellence looks like, and you're trying to drive it out of AI. So now you can push farther, but you can't relinquish your expertise solely to AI. You have to stay in a mindset that says, I'm still better. You might be giving me all the world's access in an instant. You might be able to reason much faster. You might be able to do that. But at the end of the day, I'm the one who knows my team better. I know that client better. I have the human relationship better. So I know what I need to get out of you, and I need to drive that. And so what we need to do is we need to teach people more about how to do critical thinking and how to stay in control and not abdicate their expertise and their internal aptitudes to AI. And so there's a whole shift that has to go on there so that people don't become subservient to the machine. We want to make sure that they're in control of the machine.
But it just seems inevitable. I mean, it seems like, and I think that the younger generations, they like being insulated from having to uncomfortably interact with people. You know, like the days as you get older, you'd go out, you date, you go to a party, you don't know everybody, it's uncomfortable. Well, now they don't have to do that. They don't even have to make reservations at a restaurant. The AI bot will call and will ask them for, I mean, you can do it now through Google Assistant, whatever.
Right.
So we're like, I think it's bad enough that the kids all work from home and they have remote jobs and all kinds of stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
They have no interaction, no socialization. And now this tool allows them to do even more of less interaction.
Yeah, I know. That's right.
And the kids are, by the way, and I don't know if this is true with the university governance, right, that we're talking about, but does that apply to the children, the students, how they're using it? Because they're all using it, sometimes not even approved to write things to figure stuff out.
Well, you really want to go down the rabbit hole that we went down this morning. What I've been telling people and sounding the alarm on, and we've been working with a lot of higher educational institutions, primarily from the operations side, but I'm just telling you on the education side, there's a problem because they move too slowly. And there is a massive paradigm shift that is underway. I mean, we're in it. They just haven't moved toward it. But that paradigm shift is, how do we teach people to learn now? Learning has to change.
Right.
Why? Because the world's knowledge is available in an instant.
At a fingertip.
Right? At basically for free.
Yep.
So if the world's knowledge is accessible and all I have to do to succeed is be able to access knowledge, not necessarily retain knowledge, what does that do?
What do I need to pay $80,000 a year to go for school for 4 years?
Right. So really what I need to know, I still need to know some things, but the question is, how do I learn it? And then what's my value now that the majority of the value has been shifted to this artificial intelligence? I need to now shift myself around, but I still need to know a whole lot. Like I always say, you still need to know what excellence looks like. But we have to change how people learn. And, there's a company in Austin that's really at the leading edge of this. I wish I could recall their names, but they're focused on K through 12 right now. But if you think about it, 1-to-1, teacher-student ratio outperforms classroom ratios by 5-to-1. All right, always. So, the typical student-teacher ratio in Louisiana is like 30-to-1. All right. So if you think about what AI can do in real time, AI can go 1-to-1, and it can adapt to your learning style and adapt to what you're coming up short on, and it can adjust its lessons around getting you to learn better. And now it's all going to be text-based initially, but pretty soon it will all be zero latency, verbal communication back and forth with AI. And so a teacher now becomes an orchestrator of AI
agents, let's call them.
Agents
Boss.
teaching students,
right,
and making sure that the students are in fact learning. But the learning paradigm is massively shifted, and the ability for a student to get individual one-on-one training, accelerates.
Well, that's why tutoring works, right? Because you're tutoring one-on-one specific to the student. We can't learn all mainstream the same. We always thought we could, but can't.
Everybody's different. Everybody's wired different. Everybody learns a different way.
It begs the question about the teaching profession, right? They need like 5 or 6 people in the whole school just supervising the things that are going on, and the robots are teaching all the kids. They're just sitting in there. They go to their cubicle, they sit with the robot all day and learn all different kinds of things and go around. It's like the future. It's going to be very different. I'm sure
it'll be very different. It'll be very different, but if the change can take place fast enough, the kids will benefit like immensely, right? Yeah. But the change has to take place fast enough. Right. I mean, if every student, let's look at Lafayette High here, we got like 900 students, I think, in a I don't know, what do we have? Close to 2,500 students. So divide that by 4, and you got a pretty significant, 600 to 800 kids in each grade level, right? So that's a whole lot. And if each one of them had their own independent tutor for every class, just think how much better their scores would be, right? Yeah, way better. Right. It doesn't mean that you're laying off teachers per se, but you could probably get rid of a lot of administrative layers that you don't need. I'm talking about in the school system. Yeah, so it could be more efficient. Right. But the money needs to be, and the power needs to be in the hand of the teacher. But the teacher is the one who's overseeing AI interns or AI tutors. Right. And they have to have some sort of a dashboard that is watching all those interactions going on and making sure that the kids are learning. So it's a different role entirely. Yeah. And how kids learn is going to be completely different. But the acceleration is going to be really interesting to see. But that's what we're trying to bring to the workplace, a very same thing. So what we're teaching today is not what we're going to be teaching in 12 months. And the method that we're delivering it today is not going to be at all what we're delivering in 12 months. That's all migrating. But there's so many things that we're in the middle of building in order to be where we need to be 12 months from now. And nobody's going to recognize it. I guarantee you. What we're delivering today is not going to be recognizable. I was spelling that out for my team literally 2 days ago in our annual planning session, but
interesting.
It's going to be different.
We got to do an update show like in a year and see where we are and how much stuff's
there. You go. I'll show you the
world changing. And look, maybe that's the silver lining. Ultimately, it will improve all these things, and people's knowledge will change, and they'll have access to information, and they can do things, maybe not the same thing they were doing, but they'll have the skills to do different things. When in the past you couldn't get retrained, it wasn't possible to do it.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
So,
exactly
John,
right.
I thank you so much for coming on the show.
Mitch has been
sharing
blessed.
your thoughts on AI in the world and all the things that are happening. And I don't know what it's like down in Louisiana, but we got a pretty nice weekend up here.
Yeah, it's looking good. Okay. I think we're in the high 70s, low 80s.
Nice, perfect.
And no rain, so I'm happy.
All right. So have a great weekend, and I appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Mitch, thanks for having me on. It's been a blast.
In addition to being a podcast host, I'm also a small business attorney, mostly providing legal services in New York and New Jersey. With With over 3 decades of experience, we can handle most transactional issues. So if you're watching the show and you encounter some sort of legal issue, reach out to us and visit our website, beinhakerlaw.com. Thanks for tuning into the show and for continuing to support us.